anyways, let's get into it then. At the very top of the seal itself, on the left-hand side, you'll notice that there's a pyramid. Above the pyramid, you'll see a Latin expression that says annuit corruptus, and below it, it says novus ordo seclorum. Translated from the ancient Latin, annuit corruptus novus ordo seclorum means announcing the birth of a new world order. Now,
but the end of these two wars affords us an opportunity. It allows us to refocus our intelligence and military assets and resources to other parts of the world where they are needed, where we face new challenges. This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. I believe we, and particularly you, your class, has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
If you notice, that pyramid, and you can count it, Dan, is made up of 13 steps. Now, in the occult world, there is two particular systems. One is known as numerology. Numerology is where you assign numbers to letters. Now, gematria will give you the definition to every single number. Now, 13 in gematria means depravity and rebellion.
SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded, and I'd like to look at the symbolism connected to the number 13, but also to music and geometry, calendar systems and others. Now, most people would associate 13 with unlucky 13, as in Friday the 13th, or how elevators in high-rises won't have a 13th floor. Also, some airlines won't have a 13th row in their seat. However, there's more to 13 and quite a few connections. The American dollar bill is full of symbolism, and especially with connections to the number 13. So, for instance, the pyramid on the American dollar bill has 13 levels. So there are 12 levels of masonry, so little bricks, but there is the foundation layer where we have 1776, that being the 13th layer. So that's the one of the references to 13, but through the rest of the dollar bill there are quite a few more. And so, for instance, if you look at the eagle, it's carrying 13 arrows, and it has 13 leaves on the olive branch plus 13 olives. The olive branch is a symbol of peace, the arrows a symbol of war. Of course, there are also the star above the eagle's head, which has 13 stars. This is an important geometric link, but also the 13 stripes. Now, originally there were only 12 colonies. I think it was Delaware was actually not a colony until after the Declaration. There are many links between the symbols on the American dollar bill and, of course, the connection to founding fathers being almost to the man Masons, but on the Masonic organization. So, for instance, the York Rite has 13 degrees. Now, this will connect rather nicely back to the American dollar bill. Now, on the eagle, for instance, multiple references to 13, but there are also references to 32 and 33. Now, for instance, on the Scottish Rite, there are 32 degrees open and the 33rd by invitation. So, as you see on the feathers on the wings of the eagle, 32 on the left hand side, 33 on the right hand side. So, this number 33 as well as 32 over 33 being another example of this. So, for instance, 72 plus 1 being the 73, 12 plus 1 being the 13, and that's another connection to that. Now, also a nice link to 13 is the playing card. So, for instance, you have 52 cards in total, 4 suits, therefore making 13 cards per suit. So, it's also a good approximation of how many weeks there are in a season. 52 weeks per year, 4 seasons, 13 weeks. Now, also in regards to music, so on the chromatic octave, there are 12 notes, but 13 inclusive. So again, 12 plus 1 leading to 13. For instance, the jury of 12 plus 1 judge equals 13. Now, this will also extend into hanging, and there are the symbolical symbolism in, well, the gallows also links to the 12 plus the 1 being 13. In America, Britain and elsewhere, especially in the last few centuries, the connection between the gallows and 13, multiple references to that. Now, for instance, there will be 13 steps to the gallows. So once again, there'll be 12 steps, but the 13th step is onto the platform itself. But also the noose is traditionally has 13 loops on the noose. This connection between, well, hanging and death as well can also be seen in the tarot cards. Much like the 13 steps to the gallows and the 13 loops on the noose, the, again, 12 steps plus the platform being the 13th. Well, it's interesting that the 12th tarot card is called the Hanged Man, while the 13th tarot card is Death.
Now just keep that on the top, in the back burner for now. So we have 13 steps to the pyramid, and if you notice, at the very top of the pyramid, there is a truncated triangle. Now, if you look at the pyramid, you can tell it's three-dimensional because on the left-hand side, you can see how it's shaded in to give it that three-dimensional effect. Okay, but that's not so with the triangle. You see, that's purposely kept out because that is not the all-seeing eye of God, or what some people call the eye of providence. If it was, it's in the wrong position. That point of the triangle should be pointing down, which would be God looking into the affairs of man. In this reverse position, it's man invading the heavenlies. If you take a good look at that eye, you can see that it is a left-handed eye. The reason the Illuminati used a left-handed eye is because it represents the left-hand path of witchcraft. In the occult world, if you follow the right-hand side, you follow supposedly the good side of witchcraft. If it's the left-hand side, you following the dark path.
No, I know we're not in Kansas.
Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Who, me? I'm not a witch at all. I'm Dorothy Gale from Kansas.
Oh, well, is that the witch?
Oh, Toto? Toto's my dog.
Well, I'm a little muddled. The Munchkins call me because a new witch has just dropped a house on the Wicked Witch of the East. And there's the house, and here you are, and that's all that's left of the Wicked Witch of the East. And so what the Munchkins want to know is, are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Oh, but I've already told you, I'm not a witch at all. Witches are old and ugly. What was that?
The Munchkins. They're laughing because I am a witch.
Now which way do we go?
Pardon me. That way is a very nice way.
Who said that? Don't be silly, Toto. Scarecrows don't talk.
It's pleasant down that way, too.
That's funny. Wasn't he pointing the other way?
Of course, people do go both ways.
Now, if you look at the base of the pyramid, you will see Roman numerals. Now, that should say MDCCLXXVI. That is the year 1776. That is, and specifically, it's May 1st, 1776. So the whole of that seal is saying that on May 1st, 1776, a new world order had been born. It would be headed by Lucifer and based on depravity and rebellion. Now, let's go over to the second seal. If you notice, above the eagle's head, there is 13 stars with 28 guidelines or rays about them. 28 in Gematria is the number for perfection. Now, as we go down the eagle, you'll notice that the eagle is holding in between its beak a 13-letter banner. It says E pluribus unum. Again, from the Latin, E pluribus unum means one out of many. But the question is, Dan, one out of many what? You see, when Weishaupt, Dr. Adam Weishaupt, the first head of the Order of the Illuminati, had created the Order, he was also infiltrating other occult schools and societies of his day and age and bringing them into the Illuminati. We're talking like the Masons, the Rosicrucians, they created Jacobinism and such. He was taking the best and the brightest minds out of those occult schools and putting them in the Illuminati. In essence, he was making one group out of many. That's what it's referring to. Now, if you have those illustrations, and hopefully you'll, but the original bird that was used was the phoenix. Now, if we go by the ancient stories, the Egyptian mythologies in particular, the phoenix bird lived about 400 to 500 years, after which, when he was about to die, he would settle somewhere on a cliff, put together a nest, and as soon as that was done, he would burst into fire, and out of the ashes that was left behind, there was an egg, and in that new egg would reemerge a new phoenix bird, completing the cycle of reincarnation.
What are you willing to lose? You cover your wounds, but underneath them, a million voices in your head that whisper, stop now.
Another twist of a knife, turn of the screws. It's all in your mind and it's fighting you. Arm yourself, the storm is coming. Well, kid,
what you gonna do now?
It's your reflection looking back to pull you down.
So are you gonna die today? You make it out alive. You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, phoenix, fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons and tear down the ceiling, phoenix, fly.
Now you're playing with matches, come out of the ashes underneath you.
Voices in the crowd, they're screaming, stop now. Well, let them spoil the pride, turn the tide to true believers.
Got them in the palm of your hand, you're playing God now.
What you gonna do now?
It's your reflection looking back to pull you down.
So are you gonna die today? You make it out alive. You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, phoenix, fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons and tear down the ceiling, phoenix, fly. What you gonna do now? So are you gonna die today? You make it out alive. You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, phoenix, fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons and tear down the ceiling, phoenix, fly. You gotta conquer the monster in your head, phoenix, fly. Go bury your demons and tear down the ceiling, phoenix, fly.
So you see, it was never an eagle. It was always the phoenix bird. And again, the ancient drawings and such that they used for the first seal, the very first seal, you can look at it for yourself, was the phoenix bird, and remained so for over 50 years. Now, if you notice, the eagle is looking towards the right. Oh, its right, I should say. Whenever anything like that looks towards its right, it's looking on in favor of something. If it's looking towards the left, it's looking in opposition. Just like, the Nazi warbird of World War II, if you notice, that eagle was looking towards the left. That's because it was looking in opposition to our way of living, our form of government. Now, the eagle the phoenix, I should say, is actually looking towards the other seal. We'll get to that in a minute. But if you drop down, you'll notice the eagle has a very unusual breastplate. There's 12 vertical lines at the very top, and then if you look below it, there's 6 sets of white fields, and then 7 sets of dark fields running up and down. 12 in gematria is the number for governmental perfection. 6 is the number for man. 7 is the number for God. Combined, just the shield alone, it is saying, through a perfect government, they're going to place man above God. Now, this is, remember, the Illuminati's version of a government. Remember, their version. And part of the 7-part plan, if you recall, Dan, was for them to get rid of all ordered governments in their day and age.
I think we're in the middle of a massive experiment worldwide. And that
where's the guinea pigs?
Maybe the experiment is, will people listen to scientists? In this case, referring to medical professionals?
Medical professionals.
In this particular case?
Say Anthony Fauci over at Allergy and Infectious Disease.
For example?
Yeah.
Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
So it's Monday morning here in DC as we wake up to this brave new world. For those that are self-isolating and self-quarantining and following the CDC guidelines, we thank you as your weekend blends into your weekday. For our heroic first responders, healthcare professionals, and the front line in this effort to keep our nation functioning, our grocers and our truckers who are ensuring our strong food supply. We thank you and we send our collective prayers for your safety and thoughts and gratitude your way. We're all in this together. We'll emerge from this stronger than ever before, and maybe more deeply and profoundly connected with our own humanity and our core values. So I wish you a good beginning to the week. Let's do everything we can to stop the spread. And let's remember that we are all united in this together.
Where's your John Spartan?
Oh, he went to the bathroom. I guess he got all thawed out.
Oh. Sir, I formally convey my presence.
We are not used to physical contact greetings.
Germs. Look, I don't know if you guys know it, but you're out of toilet paper.
Did you say toilet paper?
Oh, they used handfuls of wadded paper back in the 20s.
I'm happy that you're happy, but the place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
Thanks a lot, you shit.
You are fined. You are fined personally for repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells. See you in a few minutes.
Waiting for command. Voice check, Lenina Huxley.
Unfortunately, Simon Phoenix was not coded. While you were sleeping, everyone in the city was installed code. It was a brilliant idea by Dr. Cocteau that an organically bioengineered microchip be sewn into the skin. Sensors all over the city can zero in on anyone at any time.
I can't even conceive a visual of what you police officers did before it was developed.
We work for a living. This fascist crap makes me want to puke.
What do you think you're scratching, caveman?
The threat remains while free will exists. For centuries we've tried, with religion, with politics, and now consumerism, to eliminate dissent. Isn't it time we gave science a try?
You notice the legs of the eagle. Look at the toes, and you will find out that they have 8 talons or 8 claws. 8 in gematria is the number for new beginnings. Now, if you look at the left-hand claw, your left, the eagle is holding a cluster, an olive branch, that has 13 leaves and 13 berries. On the right-hand side, the eagle is holding, or the phoenix, is holding 13 arrows. Now, the olive branch is supposed to represent peace, and the berries is supposed to be the fruit of that peace. On the right-hand side, we have 13 arrows, which is supposed to represent our military might and ability to defend ourselves. But notice that the eagle or the phoenix claws are clenched. Whenever the claws are open, something's given. When it's clenched, something's being taken away. And if you notice at the bottom of the eagle, there is 9 tail feathers. Now, tail feathers, you ask any hunter, those are used for guidance and stability. Okay? But in gematria, 9 is the number for completion, or that which is finished.
Are we alone?
No. What's this?
I found him in the emptiness.
You lead the beast straight back to us.
Where did it come from? Why is it hunting us?
They've been lost in the past, looking for answers.
Science has turned against us. Join me in repelling the iron fist of the machine.
We awakened something.
9. You shall protect the future.
So in short, what this second seal is saying is that through a perfect government, man will be eternally placed above God, and that our peace and ability to defend ourselves will be taken away by force. However, through this new government, they will complete the work, or the New World Order. There's one of the foulest, the foulest, the most evil of all occult symbols in existence is what's known as a hexagram. It is when you place a triangle, an equilateral triangle, and take a second one and put it on top of it to where you have a six-pointed star. Once you do that, you put a circle around it, and that's what constitutes a hexagram. Now, as you all know, Dan, Revelation 13:18 says that the number of the beast is 666. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, that cluster of stars hold the first hexagram. Now, let me ask a question for everyone who's listening. Why are there so many 13s on the back of the dollar bill? We have 13-letter Latin expressions. We have 13 steps to a pyramid, 13 olive branch leaves, berries, 13 arrows. The 6 and 7 on the breastplate of the dark and light lines make 13. Why are there so many 13s, Dan? You only had originally 12 colonies, not 13. So 13 on the 2 seals wouldn't make sense. And trust me, when they were designing the 2 seals back then, all the founding fathers knew that there wasn't 13 colonies. But the 13 is needed. You see, ladies and gentlemen, on that same seal, the one with the phoenix or the eagle, when you connect all the 13 together, it forms a giant hexagram, and around the eagle itself, the seal has a circle. So you have 2 hexagrams or 2 sixes. Now, if my premise is correct, there has to be a third one somewhere. And that's found on the other seal with the pyramid. Ladies and gentlemen, all the hexagrams, all the 13s on the seal with the pyramid, it forms a giant hexagram, and the circle is right around it. You have a 666.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
Self-evident, Brother Franklin, all men are created equal. Indeed, Brother Washington, all Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think?
You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on our banknotes next.
You think I'm taking it a bit far?
Please don't ask me questions like that, Brother Franklin. You know I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, come on, Brother Washington. Everybody lies occasionally, surely. Especially politicians.
Not me. Not even so much as an alternative fact.
We must all be aware of fake news.
The people must be free to think what they like as well. We can have no thought police in our new society. The foundation stone of our new nation built on all those principles that we hold dear.
The plans for our new capital city already have a very Masonic feel to them, yeah.
On March 17th, MIT Technology Review published a terrifying article entitled, "We're Not Going Back to Normal." Social distancing is here to stay for much more than a few weeks. It will upend our way of life, in some ways, forever. The article gives us a sneak preview as to what to expect in the very near future, stating, "To stop coronavirus, we will need to radically change almost everything we do." The article goes on to say, in the short term, this will be hugely damaging to businesses that rely on people coming together in large numbers. Restaurants, cafes, bars, nightclubs, gyms, hotels, theaters, cinemas, art galleries, shopping malls, craft fairs, museums, musicians and other performers, sporting venues and sports teams, conference venues and conference producers, cruise lines, airlines, public transportation, private school, and daycare centers. Ultimately, however, I predict that we'll restore the ability to socialize safely by developing more sophisticated ways to identify who is a disease risk and who isn't, and discriminating legally against those who are. We can see harbingers of this in the measures some countries are taking today. Israel is going to use the cell phone location data with which its intelligence services track terrorists to trace people who've been in touch with known carriers of the virus.
Israel has given its security agencies the power to track the mobile data of people suspected of having the virus. The government will use the information to force them into quarantine and warn those who come into contact with them. South Korea has taken similar steps by using mobile phone and satellite technology to track potential carriers.
Israel is a democracy, and we must maintain the balance between civil rights and the public's needs. These tools will very much assist us in locating the sick and stopping the virus from spreading.
The idea is to use the geolocation data from people's cell phones to track who's been in contact with known virus carriers and to send them text messages to alert them to the problem and to get them also to self-isolate. Yes, it is a measure that authorities normally use for tracking extremists and terrorists. It wasn't so long ago that people were asking the same question: should we hand over our privacy for a greater good? Israel is not unique. It has joined China and Iran in this population tracking journey, and it's no secret that our cell phones contain more information about ourselves than even we know. Of course, it's information that can be used for both good and evil, which is why everyone's fighting to access it. A question remains: are you willing to give up your privacy to contain the virus? And will the authorities stop all tracking once the pandemic is over?
Candidate for initiation into the order, I'm giving a little introduction into some of our mysteries. These two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
We have great promises for our new nation. You know, I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many will be. And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
These principles will be honored with a gift from your French brethren. A gift that will be a welcoming beacon to the poor and oppressed.
This is the statue we are giving you.
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Oh, this is a maquette. The real thing is bigger. Much, much bigger.
America will produce a great many great Americans from many different walks of life and many different fields, and many will be Masons. Sportsmen, actors, writers, soldiers, filmmakers, businessmen, inventors, astronauts.
What on earth is an astronaut?
No, they're not.
I don't follow.
Well, they're not on Earth, they're in space. In fact, Brother Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk upon the surface of the moon.
That's the best thing I've heard this evening.
What, that a Mason walked on the moon?
Man on the moon. Amazing.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money is a good thing.
But don't forget the musicians. Do not forget the musicians.
Authoritarian and totalitarian regimes continue to suppress Freemasonry, afraid of its strong heritage of liberty and equality.
It symbolizes the inevitability of your end.
The British Army had travelling lodges that moved with regiments. Freemasons have served their countries and communities with distinction.
Freemasons met across the Union and Confederate divide to celebrate their common rituals.
And today, Freemasonry remains an active part of military life in many countries.
Freemasonry has burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries. The driving force behind the Royal Society was initiated into Freemasonry.
Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, father of Queen Victoria, and Prince Augustus, Duke of Sussex. The 2 princes brought their feuding Grand Lodges together and reconciled to be the United Grand Lodge of England.
Kings George IV, William IV, Edward VII, Edward VIII, and George VI were all Freemasons, as were 18 dukes and princes, including the Duke of Edinburgh.
This year, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, celebrates his 50th year as Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England.
His Royal Highness was proposed into Freemasonry by the then Grand Master, the Earl of Scarborough.
He was initiated into Royal Alpha Lodge number 16, an advocate for the craft all over the world, continuing 3 centuries of distinguished royal tradition at the very heart of English Freemasonry.
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful, the Grand Master.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
Adorn our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage, the birth of organized Freemasonry,
stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000 gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond. When the global Masonic family comes together to celebrate our past and renew our own pride and confidence in and enthusiasm for Freemasonry.
This ID will allow you to access public spaces. Without compliance, your right to participate in society will be revoked.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, because you don't want people moving around the world where you'll have some countries that won't have it under control. Sadly, you don't want to completely block off the ability for those, people to go there and come back and move around.
I
want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war. And we're fighting an invisible enemy. I just say this, we have an invisible enemy. No matter where you look, this is something, it's an invisible enemy. It's the invisible enemy. That's always the toughest enemy, the invisible enemy, but we're going to defeat the invisible enemy.
Because of this invisible threat, they want to cancel people's right to participate in society. Vaccines, like any medication, can and do induce severe adverse reactions, including lifelong disabling conditions or death. Can a free society mandate a potentially deadly medication in order to not be considered a potential threat?
I'm also pleased to report today that a vaccine candidate has begun the phase 1 clinical trial. This is one of the fastest vaccine development launches in history.
How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Careful, I'm going to get it,
Yes.
if that helps at all, but I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz. And my wife is not going to immunize our kids. My wife is not going to immunize our kids. My wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz.
We trusted the scientists back in 1976 with the original swine flu shot, and a lot of people got sick. Right. Not only that, some people died, some people were paralyzed. From the shot itself. And people remember the swine flu vaccine as a terrible disaster.
But this is one time. Forget the conspiracy. Listen to our government agencies. These guys are telling the truth. You know, there's no conspiracy here, folks. Just get your damn vaccine. Just get your damn vaccine. Just get your damn vaccine.
The nail on the head. This is going to be a public relations, trust your government and your health officials, public campaign. Mark my word, you and I are going to be talking about this a lot between now and fall.
Me, look on the CDC website as to what is in the swine flu vaccine. You know, aluminum, insect repellent, formaldehyde, mercury. Aluminum, insect repellent, formaldehyde, mercury.
We have the mightiest military in the long history of humankind. We have the best and most devoted workers ever to walk the face of the earth. And now we're combining all of these amazing strengths for the most aggressive vaccine project in history. There's never been a vaccine project anywhere in history like this. And I just want to make something clear. It's very important. Vaccine or no vaccine, we're back. And we're starting the process. And in many cases, they don't have vaccines. And a virus or a flu comes, and you fight through it. We haven't seen anything like this in 100 and some odd years, 1917. But you fight through it, and people sometimes, I guess, we don't know exactly yet, but it looks like they become immune, or at least for a short while and maybe for life.
And do something fun.
So if you own a registered firearm, you will actually be targeted as an enemy by your own government in the likely imposition of martial law.
I called you because you said if I ever put the pieces together that you would confirm.
And what brings this new clarity?
60 years ago, we were warned about the military-industrial complex gathering too much power.
This is old news. Tell me something new.
Alien technology being used against us, not by aliens, not with aliens, but by a venal conspiracy of men against humanity.
You're nearly there. You're close. Roswell, that was a smokescreen. So you believe you have the how?
Yes, and I think I know the why.
Why is more complicated than you may ever know, Mr. Mulder.
The tentacles reach far back into the last century. But it wasn't until victories in Europe and Japan and the onset of the Cold War that political and economic conditions became perfect for actual execution.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding alien technology for 70 years at the expense of human life. driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war, to create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words.
The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
Or a simulated alien invasion using alien replica vehicles that exist and are already in use.
An alien invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much-loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray His blessings on your Majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your Majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017. Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did. We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Worldwide, Freemasonry remains as important and relevant as ever. A global society of perhaps 6 million people.
As the globe embraced Freemasonry, enlightenment came.
I may not agree with what you say, but I shall defend to the death your right to say it.
None is more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free.
Coat of arms of Donald Trump. What does it actually represent?
Well, this is rather interesting, actually. This is arcane Scottish heraldic law providing evidence of Donald Trump's deep Anglophilia, I would say, and also touches upon the royal prerogative. There we have the double-headed eagle representing his Scottish Germanic heritage.
The Masonic chip program uses modern police-approved techniques to create a child identification kit.
And we take fingerprints, We also provide them with a swab for getting a DNA swab, and we also provide them with imprint where they can get an imprint of the child's teeth. So not only does it provide DNA as well as a swab, but it is also a source if you were using tracking dogs to provide a scent for the child.
You may be surprised to see who we found using tricks to cover up their license plates.
Apparently, they're law enforcement.
You know, in Hollywood and in the industry and the stuff we do, there's a lot of like insider secrets to keeping your career going, and a lot of insider secrets to making things tick.
Your distance.
While they're deceiving me, it cuts my immunity. TV's got control of me. I turn it on, they say.
But this is not over yet.
Don't trust the man with the orange skin, oh no.
It comes from China. There has to be some form of punishment.
Don't mess around with the CDC numbers. I can't believe it. We gotta make him a billionaire, oh yeah.
And then the final solution, which is a year to 2 years off, is the vaccine.
I wear my face mask in my house so I can stop a symptomatic disease spread to myself. And I wear my face mask when I bike so I can placate all the Karens at the park. And now the who is deceiving me. Trade freedom for security. TV's got control of me. I turn it on, they say. Don't take it off till the vaccine's here, oh no. Get microchipped and go back to work, oh yeah. Oh no, I can't believe it. He's not just a nerd, he's like a doctor too, oh yeah. The contact tracer's knocking at my door, oh no. I'm just a number.
Is it a coincidence the pandemic is estimated to last 18 months and the timeline for the vaccine approval is 18 months? Will COVID-19 run its course, or will it become a seasonal event like the flu?
I think it's more likely than not that this is going to turn around and come back in another season. Because right now in the Southern Hemisphere in Southern Africa, they're starting to get cases as they go into their winter. And if that happens, this is not going to disappear. I don't think it will. Which makes me more fortified, Chris, when you ask about how I feel about these things, of why we've got to get that vaccine tested, we got to get it proven to be effective, and we got to get it out. And we've got to develop drugs so that when we come around next year, it is not like this again. Never again like this, so that we'll be prepared. We'll be a totally different ball game if this comes back next winter, next fall, I'll guarantee you they'll be different.
Well, listen, people listen to you, they believe in you, they believe what you're saying, and when they hear you say that you believe more likely than not there's another wave coming, they're going to be behind any efforts to prepare.
Are you aware that from 2004 to 2014, 0 people in the U.S. died from contracting measles, according to the CDC? During the same time, 108 people died from the MMR vaccine, according to the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. Are you aware that a 2011 study conducted by the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute found that 1 in 168 babies had emergency room visits within 4 to 12 days after their 12-month MMR vaccination, and that several children died during the study? The number of deaths was not disclosed. 1 in 168 is a lot higher than the 1 in a million vaccine injury risk that parents are told about, isn't it? Are you aware the CDC holds 50 patents on vaccines and sells $5 billion a year worth of vaccines? Are you aware that Merck's package insert on the MMR vaccine lists death as only one of dozens of possible side effects? Have any of you read a vaccine insert? Are you aware that the U.S. Congress has ruled vaccines are unavoidably unsafe? Are you aware that vaccine safety studies are almost always conducted by the vaccine manufacturers, and that none of the vaccines on the childhood schedule were tested against a true inert placebo? They were tested against an older vaccine or an adjuvant such as aluminum. Are you aware that pharmaceutical drugs under the FDA are safety tested for an average of 4.5 years prior to licensing? Vaccines are tested on average for 4.5 days prior to licensing. 4.5 days versus 4.5 years. Are you aware that a Harvard Pilgrim Hospital study funded by Health and Human Services in the U.S. revealed that less than 1% of vaccine injuries are reported? This means that more than 99% of vaccine adverse reactions are not reported or acknowledged. Are you aware that the U.S. Vaccine Injury Compensation Program has paid out more than $4 billion due to vaccine injury and death? Are you aware that Canada is the only G7 nation without a vaccine injury compensation program? The CDC uses Institute of Medicine reports to support their claim that vaccines do not cause autism. IOM's 2011 report on autism concludes, quote, "The evidence is inadequate to accept or reject a causal relationship between diphtheria toxoid, tetanus toxoid, and acellular pertussis containing vaccines and autism," end quote. Institute of Medicine's 2011 safety report reviewed varicella, tetanus, hepatitis B, and MMR vaccines. 155 health conditions were studied. In 134 cases out of 155, the literature was inadequate to accept or reject causation. Does this sound like the science is settled to you? If you are not aware of these facts, then you have no business imposing this poorly tested medical procedure on Ontario's children. And if you are aware, then you are participating in medical and scientific fraud. The vast majority of parents of vaccine-injured or killed children now know the truth. They know the science is inadequate to support claims that vaccines are safe. See paragraph above. You will not silence these parents through censorship, shaming, mandates, and manipulation. Until Health Canada authorizes an independent long-term study of vaccinated versus unvaccinated, you are wasting everyone's time. No amount of pressure from Health Canada, Public Health, the Toronto Board of Health, or the corporate control media will ever convince us otherwise. Our trust has been broken. In a 2018 Globe and Mail opinion piece, Neil Rao and Richard Shabazz said this: "The borderline hysteria fueled by the media and public health that greets a few cases of measles is unwarranted." Mr. Rao is a respected immunologist on the staff of University of Toronto. Dr. Shabazz recently held the post of Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ontario. Perhaps you should listen to one of your own. Congress was blackmailed into drafting the NCVIA in 1986. Does everyone know what that is? Just in case. National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Vaccine manufacturers were losing multiple big money lawsuits surrounding injury and death of their products. They demanded Congress pass a law to give them legal immunity. In doing so, Congress said you must do safety studies annually and you must report to Congress every 2 years. In a 2018 lawsuit, it was proven that HHS did neither of those things. No studies and no reports to Congress for 30 years. Your science has settled one-size-fits-all agenda intended to lead all citizens down the path of compulsory vaccination is in direct violation of the Ontario Healthcare Consent Act, the Universal Declaration of Bioethics and Human Rights, the Nuremberg Code, and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Canadian Constitution, as supported by a Health Canada statement. This is Canada. It is not Salem, Massachusetts, 1692. It is not Berlin, 1939. This will not stand. Thank you for your time.
I said